Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I'm not gonna talk super long today, mainly because you can probably hear in my voice that I'm still a little bit sick, getting better, not quite there yet. I don't know what's going around, if it's the cold or what. Probably the fact that I work in an ER right now and everybody comes in sick. So here I am. But yeah, so today I really just wanted to cover a few of the basics and kind of another way of looking at, the green-eyed monster or jealousy, whatever we call it. However you refer to those envious feelings of, I want what you have, or I don't want you near that person, or, it's different for everybody. And the worst part about jealousy is it can literally develop at any time. It doesn't matter if you have a strong relationship, if you have a weak relationship, most likely it will develop often. But if you have a strong relationship, it can also develop. Jealousy is not indicative of, a certain type of relationship or person. It will peep its ugly head anywhere you allow it to. And this is in the workplace. This is in your friendships. This is in your intimate relationships. This is all forms and walks of life. So if you're not in a relationship, don't think that this doesn't apply to you. This applies to every single one of us that's in some kind of partnership with a person. And again, that's, work related, friendships. Then there are the intimate relationships. So something that I thought was interesting to note, I was unaware of this before I started kind of tackling down my own demons. Jealousy actually began as a survival instinct. And I say that, it wasn't like, oh, you're not going to go over there and mess with Shawanda, or Carrie Mae, you're going to go over there and, basically it started out as a competitive thing. It was an instinct. So somebody would become jealous and, I know that probably didn't make any sense what I was saying before, but basically, jealousy, it brought about feelings of competitiveness. So that's what I mean by it was instinctual. It was an instinct designed to help us survive, back in the early days. And what it did was it brought about feelings of competitiveness and wanting to be the best and do better. So it was an instinct thing that kind of gave you that motivation to try harder or work harder. And unfortunately, if you are a person that is a worrier, you deal with some type of anxiety, then your jealousy has the potential to be much, much more exaggerative. And I know that because I experienced that myself. I am a worrywart. I do deal with some anxiety that I've learned to overcome and notice. That's the key. You have to notice. You have to really be in tune with yourself and be real with yourself also, to the point where when you start feeling these feelings of jealousy, or you feel less than, or it makes you feel competitive, however it works for you, you have to be in tune with yourself, because there's no way that you're going to be able to overcome this natural feeling that we have as humans if you can't even be real with yourself when you're feeling them. And I say that because in order to overcome these feelings, you have to be able to address it, figure out where it's coming from, what's the root cause of this, and then you deal with it that way. You don't actually deal with the feeling itself of jealousy or, whatever black cloud that brings around you. You deal with the root and your response to that root, to the cause. And I'm actually going to go into that a little bit later in this episode. Basically discussing how you can tell if it's an instinctual thing or if it's an emotional thing that you're feeling based off of your self-esteem. So if you're realizing that you are struggling with jealous tendencies or envious tendencies, and whether this is new for you and you haven't really experienced this, or you've been living this your entire life, this applies to you, okay? So here's how to tell and get to the root of what's going on, and then in which you can address it and defeat it, right? So the first thing that you want to look at when you feel this feeling, this emotion of, I don't like this, I'm jealous or I'm envious, whatever it is, you want to look at the situation. So the first thing is, does this situation reoccur? Is this a reoccurring situation? Meaning your jealousy. Okay, so you're experiencing the jealousy multiple times. Take a look at the situation when you're feeling that and see, is it just one specific situation, like an intimate relationship? Your partner works with somebody, and every time you hear that person's name, you feel jealous or you feel upset. And because they work there, this is probably going to be a reoccurring situation where you feel upset because your partner works with somebody else. So that's number one. Is it recurring? Number two is, are there specific triggers that upset you and cause these feelings of jealousy? So for instance, if you work and your coworker constantly gets promoted ahead of you, or gets the big projects, or gets the opportunities, and you're feeling a little bit envious because you and your colleague work together, but they're, being recognized and getting the promotions, does that trigger your envious feelings? So triggers are a big thing. Once you can figure out what those triggers are, you can learn how to better handle them. And you don't necessarily want to avoid them, so we'll get into that later. But you'll learn how to work through them a little bit better. The next big point I want to make, there's 4 points when you're looking at a situation. So this is number 3. Does your partner not empathize with you or try to communicate or understand? So partner, again, this does not just apply to intimate relationships. This can also be colleagues, bosses, friends. Does the other person that this involves, if you know them, if you know the person, let's say you're not just feeling jealous over like a bunch of random strangers or something, but the person that you're feeling jealous toward, do they not try to communicate or understand what you're feeling, if they even know that you feel that way? So that's a big thing right there. If you're not letting people know or communicating how something is making you feel, right? Your colleague gets a promotion, and you're just not feeling that great because you know how hard you helped them with the work that they were doing, and you feel like you're not getting any recognition, right? So there's a way to be happy in that situation, and be happy for them and proud for them. We'll get into that a little bit later too. But still letting them know, hey, like, I'm really happy for you, guy, but I'm just not feeling that great about it right now. And, maybe we can celebrate later. You can come across that way without raining on their parade and see how they respond to it. Don't do it in a manipulative way. Don't do it just to catch their response necessarily, but you can approach them and talk about how something is making you feel and see their response to it. Do they try to empathize with you or sympathize? There are two different things. Do they try to communicate, oh, like, don't worry about it, you're gonna get it next time, or I'm gonna help you now that I'm up here, I'm gonna bring you up, whatever the case is. Do they try to understand? And that's a huge deal, because you really don't want to be in partnership, if you can help it, in a partnership, a friendship, a relationship with someone that does not try to understand where you're at or how you're feeling, so that you guys can come to a solution together, or so that at least you can come to a solution and have some closure. You want to surround yourself with people that not necessarily baby you. You don't want to be pitied, but you do want your partners and your friends and in your relationships for them to at least try to understand. And in turn, you have to be able to learn how to communicate effectively in a way that they're going to understand. And that just comes with knowing who you're with, knowing your friends, knowing your colleagues. It takes time to learn, but basically the more you work with people, the better it'll be for you to understand how you need to communicate to reach the people that you're trying to talk to get your point across. That's the easiest way to say it. So this brings us to number 4. And this is the big, big, big key indicator. This is going to help you decipher whether the feelings that you're having of this envy or jealousy is instinctual, if it's instinct related, just from our human nature, or if it's related to your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. So of these four things, is it reoccurring? Are there triggers that are making you feel this way? Does your partner communicate or try to understand? Number 4 is, how do you feel about yourself during these situations? And I'll say that again, this is number 4. How do you feel about yourself during these situations? And I say this is the most important because how you feel about yourself when you have these feelings of jealousy or envy, is the key indicator of the root cause of what's going on, whether or not it's instinct or it's your self-esteem. And that is a huge deal because that's going to give you the biggest piece of the puzzle. If you can't figure out anything else, if you can't tell if there's triggers involved, if it's reoccurring because you never really thought about it, if you can't tell that your partner may or may not be trying to communicate or understand you, you can at least 100% figure out for yourself how you're feeling about yourself during these situations. So there's 2 different ways that you can feel, right? And the more you dig into it, it may not be right on the surface for you. Even like with anger, it's said to be a secondary emotion, right? That we feel sad or we feel worried or concerned first, and then that kind of expresses itself in anger. But there's 2 different ways that you can feel in these situations. And the first one is confident, or validated. You can feel confident. Oh, I know that I really did a good job. I'm going to get it next time. But man, this really sucks, or I know I look good. I know I don't have to worry about my partner wondering, but hey, I'm still concerned because, whatever your reason is, I don't know. For those of you that are in that kind of situation, it can be a little tricky. But do you feel confident or know that you're a competitor, that you have what it takes to get done what you need to get done or hold down this relationship, this friendship, whatever? That is a key indicator that your feelings of jealousy and envy are instinctual. And I say that because the jealousy that you get from your instinct, the human nature instinct, brings about those feelings of competitiveness. And it does that to motivate you to be the best, to do more, to be at the top. So if you're feeling confident, you're feeling like, hey, I got this, I don't know what happened, but we're going to go for it again, more than likely you're dealing with the instinct. Now, let's say that a situation happens and you're feeling upset, you're envious, and you just feel like total shit. You feel worthless. You feel like, why am I even trying anymore? You feel like, oh, they're gonna leave me. They're not gonna want to be with me anymore. When you start having feelings of that worthlessness or I really do suck kind of mentality, that's a huge key indicator that the jealousy you're dealing with in that moment is self-esteem related. And I say that because you don't have the confidence, that's pushing you to be competitive and do better. What you're feeling is kind of in a vicious downward cycle of worthlessness, and you don't feel attractive, you don't feel smart, you don't feel successful or productive. And so your biggest way to fight that feeling of jealousy or in that circumstance is going to be to work on your self-esteem. So I'll go through that a little bit later in this episode. But those are the 2 ways you can feel confident or validated, or you can feel worthless and, unsuccessful in whatever it is that you're trying to do. Now I kind of want to fast forward a little bit and try to get you guys to see how you're dealing with these triggers or these situations. How you deal with them says a lot also about your root, like where this is coming from. So the first example that I have on here is when you have these feelings, do you avoid the person or avoid the situations that are making you feel this way, right? So if you have a partner that you always suspect they're looking at other people, do you avoid trying to go out to public places or avoid, making eye contact with him or looking at him or her? Do you avoid the situations that are going to make you feel uncomfortable? If you do, if that's you just avoid it altogether because you don't want to deal with it. That is almost 100% related to your self-esteem. And I say that because in avoiding it, you are, I don't want to say you're a coward, but basically you're avoiding it. You're not dealing with the situation. And that's either because you don't feel like you don't feel like you can handle it, you're not good enough. It all goes back to those feelings of worthlessness. You might not realize that that's what's going on, that confidence is not there. But avoiding it is not always the best answer because that is not building your self-esteem to tell you, hey, I can do this. If I ever come across this situation, I can handle this. The next example I have on here is when you have these feelings or these situations occur and you're feeling a little jealous, a little envious, do you work harder to make changes in yourself so that you can be where that person is at, or you can be higher, than you're sitting at right now? You can be in a higher position or, have a higher thought about yourself. Are you working harder when you feel these things? Are you working harder to fix yourself so that you can get there too? And if you are, if that's your way of dealing with it, then most likely you're dealing with the instinct that we have to be competitive as humans so that we can survive. If you deal with things by going after them, tackling them, and doing 10 times better than anybody else because you're going to show everybody, you're most likely dealing with the instinct. And the last example I have is if you do absolutely nothing, you just let it go, you don't talk about it, you don't avoid it, but you don't tackle it either, you're probably also dealing with self-esteem. And that's just because you just, again, don't want to deal with it. You don't feel like you can or have the energy, whatever your excuse is for not wanting to take charge and be offensive about what you're feeling. You're probably dealing with your self-esteem. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. I'm just going to recap a little bit before we go on to the tools for defeating these feelings. And there's 4 points for looking at the situation so you can try to understand what is making you feel this way. Then you want to look at how you feel. Are you feeling confident, competitive, validated, or are you feeling worthless, insecure, just sad? Then, you're probably dealing with your self-esteem. And then the last thing that we looked at was how do you deal with the situation? How do you deal with yourself when you get these feelings, right? And so that has a lot to do with your self-esteem and instinct. So those are the 3 big things that you want to look at to define what's going on, figure out how you're feeling, and then figure out how you deal with it. And once you start to pay attention to yourself and you kind of become in tune with these things, then you can clearly articulate to your partner, your friend, your colleague, hey, I'm feeling this way, and this is why I'm feeling this way. This is why I feel so shitty, and this is what I'm going to do about it. So it kind of gives you that boost of confidence because now you're not just dealing with this shitty feeling of being jealous. Nobody really likes to be jealous. People that feed off of that, and they say that they like it, or that's people that want to be in control. We'll go into that in a whole different podcast episode, maybe. But nobody generally likes that way of feeling. Unless you're a little crazy, you're a little cuckoo, you want to be just wild and out, you want to throw shit and cause issues. Nobody really likes that feeling. So when you look at these three things, you'll be able to pinpoint what's going on and take care of that shit like it's nobody's business. I'm actually surprised because I didn't think I was going to be on here talking so much, but I'm like so passionate about this topic right here because it is something that I dealt with for so long, and it was so interesting because one day I never experienced it in my life, and then the next day it was like, oh, what is this? Like, I don't like the way this feels, and I was young, I was a little teenager, and didn't have coping skills, and so it really just kind of rocks your boat and you don't know how to deal with it or what's going on. So I'm really passionate about this topic because we all deal with it. We all do. If you say that you have never experienced some type of envy or anything, it's a lie because it's ingrained in our human nature, our DNA for survival. So if you haven't felt the self-esteem one, that's great because that's a whole, different issue in itself. But you have to have at least felt the instinctual rise in you of wanting to do better and compete, and that's very healthy. That's normal. So we're gonna go into self-esteem and some ways to make that better. This is how I did it. This is how psychology and science proves that you can build your self-esteem. Some ways to do that. I've done a lot of research on these things, and I've gone through a ton of therapy for it. Therapy is great, guys. If you don't have somebody to talk to, or if you're not paying somebody to talk to, you got to find a way, because talking it out and talking yourself to death in circles, again, communicating, is going to be the key point in getting all that crap out of you so that you can actually lay it out on the table, dissect it, see what's going on, and fix it. And then you only get to take back the parts that you want. Right? So we're going to jump right into self-esteem. These are some ways to make yourself better and focus on self-growth. So if you've been following Taboo Talks at all lately, that's really what we're all about, is self-growth and development in a community, where we're focused on communication. So there's a million ways to make yourself better. I'm not going to throw up like blogs or podcasts about working out necessarily. We may have some of that in there, but that's not what our focus on. Our focus is going to be on communication because that's where everything starts. So we're going to get right into it. So we are talking a little bit about the physical stuff here and how to make yourself better in self-growth, because that's very important to building your self-esteem. So you want to get physical. If you feel and you're having these feelings of worthlessness, like you're not validated, you don't feel comfortable, you feel very insecure, that's okay. That's totally normal, again, especially in the society that we, are raised in, where we're told constantly that we have to look a certain way, be a certain way, yada, yada, yada. Physically, you can do stuff from the outside to change your mood and change how you're feeling about yourself on the inside, right? So make the option to take stairs instead of the elevator if you can. Try to take the stairs, get those extra steps in. And I say this, I work in a hospital right now. But, and I also do this work from home, but any chance I get, and I used to just take the elevator. I used to hate taking the stairs. Like, I'm not extremely out of shape, but I am a little bit out of shape nowadays. And I used to hate taking the stairs, but now I make it a point to where I actually like that opportunity. I challenge myself to take those stairs. I kind of pump myself up like, oh, you're not going to do it. Like, I bet, and I'll go take the stairs and I'll prove myself wrong. And so I'm building it's those little tokens that are building my confidence, Even if you feel confident, you should continue to build your confidence. Don't do it in a way, where you become arrogant or, like pompous, but you should always be working on your self-confidence and feeding and investing in yourself, right? So physically, you can take stairs, you can park a little further away. Don't be that person unless you are required and you have secured yourself a spot in the handicap parking. Do not be that person that will hold up an entire line of people at the grocery store because you want to wait for that second spot where the person is loading up their car and you know that they're going to be pulling out in 5 minutes. Don't sit there and wait for them. Drive your little car around, your big car around, whatever you're driving. Drive around, go to another parking spot, park a little further away, get those extra steps in. You're going to thank yourself for it later. Do not be that person that tries to shortcut every opportunity to not get some exercise. And I don't care if you're in good health, bad health. If you're in bad health, you absolutely need to do it. Obviously, within the recommendations of your doctor, but getting extra steps in is only going to help you. It's only going to help you. Just make sure that you're doing it safely. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Don't shortcut ways to, physically challenge yourself. Another big thing is drinking water. Oh, I hate this one. It's so important. Like, water is the basis. It makes up a majority of the percentage in our body, and it makes up 75%, of the earth. Like, it's a huge deal. Water is a huge deal. And I say I hate this because I struggle with this so much. The more I drink, the more I have to pee. But then, the less I drink, the more dehydrated I feel. So it's this constant battle between, am I drinking enough? Am I, not drinking? Am I drinking too much? Because that is a thing, guys. So just so you know, you can't drink too much water. Anyways, but drink more water. So if you know that you're a person that doesn't really drink enough water, my goal right now is to get up to 1 gallon a day. And I know plenty of people that do that and they feel great and they love it and their body relies on that gallon of water a day. I'm not totally there yet, but I am very close and I'm getting there. So I'm training my body to be able to accept that much water intake in a day. And with that being said, I try to, again, look for those ways to take the stairs or, walk a little bit further, so that I can accommodate that extra water that I'm taking in. But typically 1 gallon a day. I think when I was pregnant, they were telling me to drink 1 gallon and like another 8-ounce cup on top of that, which seemed totally ridiculous to me because my bladder was squished and that was a lot of water anyways. I could hardly eat that much food. But that's what they were recommending to me. So that's what I'm trying to get back to. And it's really important. So you take care of yourself on the outside and you're going to feel a little bit better about yourself on the inside, right? The last thing I have for you guys on the physical side of building your self-esteem is to do your hair and makeup, or if you don't wear makeup and you don't do your hair, dress nice. If you're going to go for a workout, make sure that you're wearing clothes that you feel comfortable working out in, that you feel attractive working out in. There is a lot of evidence out there today that talks about the importance of what you're wearing and how you feel wearing certain clothes when you work out. So if you're not feeling very attractive, if you're feeling kind of frumpy and just feeling like you don't really look good in the clothes that you're wearing, it affects your mentality to where you don't work out as hard. You don't even show up to work out because you're just like, oh, I'm not feeling it today. Or if you're wearing an outfit out in public and you're just feeling kind of insecure about yourself, it's you're more likely to try to cover yourself up or to stand in the background. And so whatever your body shape is, whatever your size is, you need to find clothes that are going to fit you in a way that you feel confident. And so don't wear extremely tight clothes. That's just gonna set yourself up for those feelings of insecurity. You're gonna feel like everything is kind of out there. I've done a lot of research on different clothes. I have kind of a square shaped body. I think I don't have that like defined hourglass shape, but I can wear clothes that kind of emphasize that shape, and I notice that makes me feel a lot better. Men, it's gonna be a little bit different for you, but same concept. Like, find what works for your body and go after that. Because if you take care of yourself on the outside and you're feeling like you look good on the outside, it's going to change how you're feeling on the inside and you're going to feel a little bit more confident. So those are physically ways that you can look out for yourself and build that self-esteem in attainable ways. I just gave you 3 ways to do that. And I think those are very reasonable goals. You can even set those goals for yourself in a week and kind of go from there and just measure yourself. Like, how many times did I get dressed up this week? How much water did I have today? There's ways you can track it on electronic devices today, how many steps you did, how many flights of stairs you climbed, etc. So the next thing that I want to discuss with you guys on self-growth and how you can build your self-esteem socially is to invest in networks. So I say that because you want to surround yourself with people that are confident, people that are motivated, people that are go-getters, not necessarily in an exhausting way. You don't have to put yourself, if you're naturally, not intrinsic, but, oh goodness, I can't even think of the word. Here we go. See, I always do this. Introverted, that's the word. So if you're normally introverted and you rejuvenate by having alone time, spending time with yourself, you don't have to exhaust yourself by socializing with people. I'm very, very outgoing, and I've learned to be that way just from moving around so much. But I really need my alone time to rejuvenate and to get my energy back up. And my friends that know me very well. We would have people over the house, and when I was done, I was done. I would leave my husband downstairs because he can just go forever, hang out and talk to people. And I would go upstairs and I would go to sleep. I didn't care if they were in my house. I'm going to sleep because I need to rejuvenate and I'm tired and I'm done. So don't feel bad if you need that, alone time. That's okay. That's a huge deal for me as well. But you can invest in your social network. So joining meetup groups, meeting people that have similar interests as you, that are trying to go to high places like you want to go. When you invest yourself into these social networks, it's a good way for you to have some light accountability. You don't have to invite these people into your life, to judge and hold you accountable in every area. But it is nice because when you are around people that are motivated and that are doing things in life, you naturally kind of want to keep up with that sometimes. And if you don't feel that way and it kind of makes you feel more insecure, then you really have to change your mindset. We can go into that in another episode if you guys are interested in that. But you don't have to be intimidated. There's going to be people of all levels in these groups. Find a group that works for you and try it out. Same thing with hobbies. That was my next point on here, hobbies. If you're not really doing anything to build yourself up, it's never too late to learn how to play an instrument or to learn how to draw a picture or to learn how to sew or crochet. It's never too late to get on a sport. They have recreational sports if you can do that physically. But you should find at least one hobby if you can make time for it. And you can make time for it. It's all about priorities. If you're investing in yourself, you need to make time. I don't care if you have 10 kids, you're working 2 full-time jobs. On your lunch break, you can be reading a self-development book, a how-to book, something. You can build yourself up in these little areas. You just have to want it. But my last point on here is to start a project. So kind of along with meetup groups, hobbies, joining a group can be a project for you, but start a project, start something that you're interested in and kind of make something out of it. Right now I'm writing a book. I never in my life thought that I would be writing a book, but I really enjoy writing and I really enjoy storytelling. I want to get my stories out there. So why not write a book? Book writing was never really on my list of things to do up until the past few years. But find something that you're good at. If you have certain skill sets and you have certain abilities to do things, find something along that line so that it's not so much of an effort for you. It comes kind of naturally. So for me, writing and talking, it kind of comes naturally nowadays. And so I love to do things like that because it's not so much of an effort. It doesn't exhaust me. But those are my main ways. And I know we spent a lot of time on self-esteem, but that's because it just goes so much deeper. Even in this episode, you're not going to get the full extent of being able to build your self-esteem and how you can do that from a psychological standpoint and a spiritual standpoint. There's a ton of things that you can really do to build your self-esteem depending on where you're coming from. And if you guys want to know more about that, I can do another episode, or you're more than welcome to book a consultation with me. They're free. I'm not charging. They're free. For anybody that feels like they just need a little advice, or, like a little plan of action. I'm really into that kind of stuff. I love planning and organizing. So yeah, reach out to me. Worst case scenario, if you don't like what I say, you can always toss it in the trash and move on. So no harm, no foul. So for overcoming these feelings of jealousy, I'm getting off on a little rabbit trail there. If you're dealing with the instinct, so in this situation, and here's the thing, like, there's multiple situations a day. You can have multiple different, you can have instinct and self-esteem related jealousy and envious feelings multiple times a day if that's your thing and that's what you're dealing with. So that's okay. What I'm doing here is I'm just providing some really easy tools for getting over that. And these things take time. But if you're dealing with the instinct jealousy or instinct envy, the one that comes from human nature that forces us to feel competitive and want to outdo everybody else, that is natural. And what you can do to build yourself up in that realm, you can take courses and classes to build your certifications, make yourself more professionally attractive and knowledgeable so that you have more opportunities. You can ask people. So networking, kind of like what I was talking about in the self-esteem, investing in your network, you can do the same thing. So in the professional standpoint, to stand out from your peers, ask people that are there now, what they did to get there. Find a mentor, somebody that, is where you're trying to go, where you want to be. Find them and pick their brains until they have nothing left, because you want to know how they got there. You don't have to necessarily follow step by step, but having a general idea of how they got there and what led them to that success. More often than not, they're going to tell you a lot of failures. They went through a lot of failures. And, networking, they knew the right people. It's all about who you know, right? And so a lot of times that's the big thing. You want to build your network. You want to work with people, get to know people. And don't come to an organization or a group or to people just looking to take what you can. Like, also come and offer what you have, whether that's a skill set or you're artist or, whatever the case may be, like, offer something in return. And if people don't jump on that and they don't use that, that's okay. But at least you're offering, you're putting something on the table. Don't just come to people with something to take. With mentors, it's a little bit hard because sometimes they don't really need what you have. They've already been there, done that. But at least offer, because the last thing you want to do is be known for that person that just kind of drains from people and takes away from people. So always be willing to give back and to give something as well in return. And then practicing more. That's all you can do. Practice more. If you suck at your presentations, or, Nancy's presentation was better than yours, do more presentations, practice more, get critique, do it in front of friends and family. Find some people that are going to be really honest with you, maybe even some colleagues that work there, just because, whatever the case, whatever you're doing, find somebody that's going to know what you need to hear and, present in front of them. Or if you're in sports, work out harder, take care of yourself. And, there's a lot of things that you can do to practice more. Even when you feel like you've mastered it all, you probably haven't, because there's always room for growth. So with instinct, it's not as deep. You're really just dealing with the human nature side of things and being competitive. So what you want to do is just set yourself apart from your peers. And if we're looking at like relationship, sometimes I haven't really dealt with a lot of people, or even in myself, where jealousy in an intimate relationship was an instinct. I know that back in the day it kind of starts that way, where I guess, this Neanderthal didn't want the girl Neanderthal to go off with another man Neanderthal and have his man Neanderthal babies. But I don't know. I haven't seen a lot today in our society of instinctual jealousy or envy. So in that case, you're just going to have to go back to looking at the situation, how you feel and how you deal, basically to find out what's really going on, because it's different for everybody. But I hope that you can hear these key points and tips and take that home and really work on it. This is something that I do constantly every day, to the point where, you know, like even with my husband, I'll literally sit down and I'll be like, look, this is how this made me feel. This is why I think I feel that way. And this is what I want to do about it, you know, and we come to an agreement, or, you know, whatever the case is. I'm lucky I have a partner that is willing to understand me and work with me. If you don't have that, and that's something that's very important to you, I'm not telling you that you have to leave a relationship. Sometimes it's not that easy. I get it. But if it's something that's that important to you and you're not reaching your best self because you're stuck to somebody that has no interest in helping you get there, then you might want to reconsider what you're doing. You know, you got to make yourself a priority sometimes, because we really only have one life to live. And at least in this side of the world. If you believe in reincarnation, you know, this life that you're living in right now is still this life. So this life that you have right now is yours to build upon. So take these tips, and if you deal with jealousy, you're a jealous type person. You know, a lot of people say I'm just a jealous person. You're probably just dealing with a lot of insecurity. So, you know, or maybe it is the instinct and you just want to be the best at everything, which is cool. Go at it, you know, go for it. But if you feel like you're a jealous type person, I really, really encourage you to take these tips and find out the root cause of what you're feeling, because it's not always going to be, you know, just one situation that triggers this for you. It could be multiple. So you just have to slowly hack away at all of them until you don't really have these feelings of jealousy anymore. I tell you guys, like, it used to be so bad with my insecurity. I literally would wake up in the morning and the first habit that I had was I would reach for my partner's phone and I would be going through that shit. I was going to find something, and if I didn't, then I know you're just really good at hiding it from me. So, you know, I was there and I was in a really broken place, and my self-esteem just wasn't there anymore because I was in a pretty unhealthy relationship at one point, and I just let it take everything from me. And so it took me a lot of years to find out how to fix that and how to build myself back up, you know, and that did require me to really tap into my spiritual side. So that's a huge thing too, guys. It doesn't have to be, you know, like the mainstream media faith, but find something, whether it's meditation, yoga, religion, you know, a ritual or a habit, anything. Find something that spiritually you can connect to and ground yourself and just build yourself up, because once you let yourself get to a place and you just kind of give in to those feelings of low self-esteem, it's a very hard cycle to climb out of. And it is possible. It's very, very possible. I am there, and I'm getting there, and I work on it every day because I do not want to be in the place that I was before. So I say this with encouragement. I say this with love, guys. I want you guys to see success in 2019, and it starts with you, and it starts with you loving you and overcoming these feelings of jealousy that sometimes can take a turn for the worse. I mean, most domestic violence cases are centered around jealousy, and, you know, people die over this shit. Literally, people would be killing people because they're jealous. So take care of yourself. If you're feeling jealous, you got to figure it out and use these tips to do that. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning into this episode. I hope that it was helpful for you, and I hope that maybe you get some answers to some of your problems. So, you know, ways to fix the problems that you're feeling on jealousy. And that's all. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'll see you guys next week on Taboo Talks. This is Ashley Rodriguez, and hopefully next week I'm not congested. I'm hoping. See you guys later.